Hey everybody, welcome back. SpeakuP Monday here at Tropical Nomad here in Bali. So first of all, I'd like to thank the Tropical Nomad team. We've got Brother Itchy, Sister Bella over there doing their thing every week, Monday, loving it. And we're getting better and better, like streaming it. Soon next week, we're probably going to be streaming this on YouTube. Right now, it's to you, the Facebook group of SpeakuP Monday, all right? So, a few little things before we start. So the first thing is that this is number 63 or 62. 62 or 63, there you go. So each week we bring it to you, and it's about, SpeakuP Monday is about, it's a platform for inspiration, because when all is said and done, people inspire people. So people inspire people, and that's what this is really about. So over the last 62 weeks, we've had lots of different people from all different walks of life, right? Different ideologies, different ways of seeing the world. But the thing that unites us all is that we all have a message, right? And the idea behind this is that we have a chat, and out of that chat comes some messages, right? Some insights for all of us to then go forward with that and have immediate impact, as well as have a bit of a laugh, a bit of fun in the process. Now, the last thing I'll say is remember, if you feel you're getting a tug from the universe saying, you know what, I wouldn't mind doing a SpeakuP Monday, right? I wouldn't mind, I feel like I got a message of something I have to share. Just reach out to us, okay? So in this group, you got SpeakuP Monday group, or contact me personally, and it's Robert Ian Bonnick, RIB, Facebook, Instagram, all the usual channels. I'm sure you can find us. Feel free to reach out. Nothing is by coincidence, okay? So just tap into that energy. And don't worry about fear. Put fear aside, give us a call, and then in the next few weeks, you're going to be seeing us here, all right? That's the good news. Now, deep breath. So, on this week's show, very happy to announce Benjamin.casteillo, and it's a very interesting guy. And the interesting part is that everyone's got an energy, right? So the first time I met Benjamin, I think it was in Tamora Gallery, and there's a tall dude, probably about, I think a bit taller than me, and the first thing that I got from him was his drive and his energy and his passion towards the environment, right? And his energy was overwhelming, right? Which I love, right? It's like, whoa, what's this guy about? And from that moment, he already captivated me. And but the interesting part is that up until this time, we've had a few chats, but I know that there's great substance, there's a story beneath the story. So tonight, I'm finding out, just like you, certain things that we're going to discuss, things we're going to talk about. So this is a real exploration for me as well. So I'm really glad that you're on the journey with me. And now, a silent round of applause for Benjamin.casteillo. Welcome, Benjamin, to the show, brother. Welcome.
Thank you, Robert, for having me here.
Oh.
And, I'm looking forward to have this discovery with you.
Yes.
I'm sure I'm going to discover some stuff as well.
Oh, so. That's good. And you know what? So that, like, to kick this off, this T-shirt, Consciousness, right? It's a great T-shirt. And but what's behind it? What's the story behind it?
Well, it's the story of what I would call, I don't like, because I don't want to sound too much like spiritual, and I would like to stay grounded. But it's the story of a consciousness awakening, and I would call that getting to know oneself.
Yeah.
So it's my story of getting to know myself and why I am here on this planet. Because it's been an existential question, and I have to say I had difficulties to find a response. Everything seemed so chaotic and did not seem to make sense. And I had learned that, that's just the way life is, it doesn't make sense. So consciousness was a kind of a liberation from this lack of sense and from this meaninglessness that was very taxing to me.
Got it. And look, so I'm just, by the way, I'm just sharing this to a few different groups. If you're wondering why he's not looking at Benjamin, he's asking the question. So at the start of each show, it starts off with me sharing this to a couple of different groups, so we really get the opportunity to get more people involved. So I might be doing that from time to time. Okay, so one of the questions that I always wanted to ask you is, so let's find out a little bit about your background. So where is it that you're from?
So I'm originally from France. I've grown up in different parts of France. sometime in the city and sometime in the countryside. And I could develop a lot, but let's say that I've grown up in a normal French family, and but very young, asking myself some deep existential question and being frustrated about the lack of response I could find from school or from my parents. And yeah, I had a regular curriculum. Despite being a rebel, I still went out to do studies and ended up doing a corporate career for more than 10 years, quite successful. But at some point it became too difficult to continue.
Got it. And we'll delve into it. So the question pops in, like, you know, when I look at you and I see a guy, right, who's passionate, right, who's like, who feels, to me, you feel like you're on your mission, you know, that in such a way that your mission, like, you exude it. So when we imbibe what we're here to do, it comes out of everything, the way we breathe, the way we speak, the way we hold ourselves, the way we look at each other, right, the way that we pursue something, right? So like, what is it that drives you?
For me, it's a little bit special. But one thing that has been really haunting me was the fact that I could perceive that the way we behave as a species is unsustainable, which means that we're heading toward a self-termination. And I found that extremely disturbing, and even more disturbing that I was part of the problem. And being part of the solution became kind of an obsession, except that nothing seemed to be good enough back in the days when I couldn't make sense of this reality and of this situation. And following my consciousness awakening, this response came of how I can be part of the solution, and that completely shifted my life. And that gave my existence meaning, which is all I could ask for. I mean, it's far better than the success I was having in my corporate career. I was having financial success, I was having social success, but it didn't fulfill me as a human being. I felt always empty when at the end of the month I was receiving this paycheck. I was like, what am I going to do with this, and what's the purpose of it all? And so yeah, this being part of what I see coming, which is a huge transformation, is really passionating for me. And the challenge also, because it's quite challenging, is there. I love challenges. So it really obliged me to take myself to the next level.
So now, thank you for sharing that. So peeling a few more layers, going a little bit deeper. So, you know, I know what your cause is, right? And we'll share that in a second. The thing which I'd love to know is, you know, like, what's behind that? So kind of going deeper again, peeling some layers off, you know, like why are you inspired by that? Like, what was it in your childhood? Was there something? Because you didn't maybe just arrive at a job and say, I don't feel fulfilled. So like, stepping back into your life, was there any defining moments?
There were many, but I guess as a child I can remember thinking, which was kind of funny for a child, thought, like, why did I come to live at this moment? Everything is so boring. What I'm being asked for is be good at school, find a good job, find a wife, get some kids, retired, die. I was like, damn, you know, that's such boring time to be alive. And I was thinking, I was looking at histories, and I was like, wow, there was time, you know, where knights were traveling for their cause, when people were fighting against fascism. And I'm just born in this boring time where nothing's happening. And I found that extremely frustrating. I didn't know what he had signed for. So then later on during my life, you know, I went through some kind of personal crisis quite young. I didn't feel like I fitted in. Like, things didn't seem to make sense, and what I was learning in school didn't seem to make sense, and what I was observing in reality didn't seem to make sense. It was very frustrating, but I didn't know how to express it. So I didn't have words. I just feel weird and different, and didn't accept myself. So I tried to fit in hard. And trying to fit hard was successful for a bunch of decades, but it ended up breaking down because the cognitive dissonance between what I was aspiring for deep inside myself and what I was doing became too big. And so, yeah, And that was the beginning of the consciousness awakening that led me to what I'm doing now.
And then was there anyone that you were able to share this with when you were growing up as a kid, that I don't feel like I fit in, I feel like my life is kind of empty and meaningless? Was there any people that you could confide in, or anyone that you spoke to?
Unfortunately, the response is no. And I couldn't even express it. So I tried to find some ways to kind of express my thoughts. I remember, like, not long before my big crisis that led to my consciousness awakening, I was organizing documentary nights where I was inviting friends to watch documentaries. It was kind of a way to say, guys, maybe we should ask ourselves some questions. Maybe we should talk about this kind of stuff. But it was very hard. I was basically, I felt like I had different subject of interest. My friends were talking about cars, which one is the fastest cars, and I was thinking about what's happening in the world. I was like, and I thought, I thought I had a problem. I thought I was not normal. And so for a long time, I was believing that I was just being negative and that I was just not being grateful for what I have, which was partially true. But I didn't see that there was a call for a purpose. There was a call for finding meaning. I was considering as a curse, basically.
And then for you, so mom, dad, brothers, sisters?
Yeah, I guess moms and dads were really worried that because I was kind of a rebel, quite young, kind of a troublemaker in school, and the guy who doesn't really fit in. So my parents were really worried that I would end up being marginalized, and so they really kind of forced me in schools. Like, my parents are divorced, but when I was a teenager, my father said, "Okay, bring Benjamin here, and I'm going to kick his ass to make him work in school," which he did very successfully. But no, they did not understand, and they were really worried about me, ending up in a bad situation.
So then you grew up with a mum?
With my mum until I was around 14, and then with my dad until I was 18.
So those first 14 years with mum, and then the rest with dad.
Yeah.
So then those first 14 years, any brothers and sisters?
I have two half sisters from the side of my dad. So I've lived with my sister after I was a teenager, but they were much younger, 10 years and 12 years younger than me.
Okay, so then your mum was a single mum?
She was a single mom.
Okay, and so then what kind of relationship did you have?
It's been complicated because, and it's part of what makes me who I am, also things that I thought were a curse. Like, I didn't have a masculine figure, fixed one, because my mom kept changing partner every 3 or 4 years. Okay. So I didn't have like a fixed identity, a fixed reference. So as a teenager and as a young adult, I realized that I didn't have really, I didn't have a structure. It was kind of, I didn't know really who I was. So I kind of did my best to be the personality, but which wasn't me. And to fit in. So that's why I had this I did like a business school, although I ended up hating what I was learning, but I was like, okay, at least I'm going to travel. I studied like international business because there was international in it. I was like, at least I'm going to travel. And then I had this corporate career, which, gave me like, ultimately what it really gave me, aside from the professional experience, is self-confidence. I was like, but damn, I can be a manager, I can be a senior manager, and I can do good. And I could continue on this path and probably end up as a CEO in 10 or 15 years. But I thought that this was like selling my soul. It was like, I was part of a system that's fundamentally unsustainable. And not only I was part of it, but I was feeling it.
I got it.
And yeah, that was really the big conflict within me that I had to take a decision. That was a leap of faith.
I got it. So 2 more questions in this area. Right? So, so what was the worst experience that you had with your mum?
Oh man, we're gonna go deep. That's nasty. But thanks for asking that. So, because that's one thing that it was very difficult for me to talk about, and is one of the things that I'm addressing now. So, thanks for making it so personal, man. That's amazing. So yeah, let's come out. So basically, like when I was 13 years old, 12, 13. So I was just starting to discover sexuality, just starting to have feelings about, like this is attractive and stuff. And my mom was in a transition between one stepfather and the next one. And that transmission was not very smooth. The transition was not smooth. She was seeing the new one during the week, because the other one was working far. And basically, she did not spare me of her sexuality. So I could hear everything that was happening next to the room. Her cheating on my stepfather, which was kind of my father at the time. And it was very troubling, because as a young teenager, there was kind of, that triggers desire, in a way, excitation, sexual excitation. But at the same time, there was guilt, shame, anger. And so that lasted for weeks. And I remember having breakdowns in my room, crying and yelling, and my mother coming in my room and saying, "Why are you so selfish? If you don't like the noise, just go upstairs, it's more quiet." She didn't get it. She didn't get it, that she was deeply traumatizing. And that has been one of the most difficult experience as a teenager. And I'm still dealing with the consequences of this now, and it's part of the inner work I'm doing. It's processing this. By the way, being able to talk about it. So, in a way, I'm quite relaxed. To something that's going to be public, to me, is quite new. I'm like, okay, all right, that's getting better. Because normally it's something I would not even talk about to a psychologist. There's just so much shame on it, right?
And how did you feel that affected you?
It's hard to say about the relationship with the feminine in general. Mixing sexuality with guilt, shame, and anger. My relationship with women in general, relationship with myself, the relationship with my mother. But ultimately, it's a blessing. Because without this, I wouldn't be who I am right now.
Right.
I mean, if I had a life where everything was going as planned, I wouldn't have to go deep to overcome these challenges and be the person I am today, which I consider to be a blessing. I feel blessed to do what I'm doing. And to be able to take the risk I'm taking and stuff like this, it's amazing. So today I'm really looking at it with, ultimately, these challenges and this pain that I've been through were really blessings that allow me to tap to much deeper level and to learn things that I would never have learned otherwise.
So I grew up in two children's homes in London, and two members of staff. And members of staff were like surrogate parents, right? So mummy and daddy multiplied by 6 or 7. It was probably maybe 15 or 16 members of staff over the 17 years that I was there. And two, one was in a marriage as a guy. He was in a marriage and he brought his kids around, right? He would play with us. Another one was a woman who was single, who wasn't with anybody. And one night, imagine 16 kids, me being the youngest, 18 kids at any one time, and they were having an affair. And one night we could hear them all. And imagine 8 or 9 kids creeping up the stairs, trying to be quiet, laughing and giggling. And as we got close to the room, we could hear the sound of people having sex, right? And then it became a lot more serious, and we were begin to understand what might happen, to kind of realize that we're talking about two people that we really looked up to, who are our members, who are like surrogate mum and dad for us, who are doing something they should not be doing. And as we got close to the door, there's a natural silence that came over all of us. And I think, I can't speak for anyone else, but I think that we wanted to turn back, because seeing something or hearing something, but seeing something are two completely different things. So we pushed open the door, and I still see that image now, of these two people having sex, people that should not be having sex, right? And what happened after, and seeing these two adults become kids, and tell us that we were denying what was happening, all of this stuff, and all the different guilt and shame that was attached to that. And then the worst thing that we were left with was mental. It was the guy said to us, "Look, you know my wife and my kids. If you want to tell her, right, that I'm having an affair, go ahead. Go ahead. But you know what? If we break up, and if we get divorced over this, it's on you." This is what he told us. It's the biggest emotional blackmail that I think has ever been perpetrated on me and 6 or 7 of us, right? It hit me so deeply. And for weeks, we're just I just don't know what to do. It just felt empty towards him and empty towards her. Then came anger and shame and all the rest of that. And then but the story's got a twist. So what happened was that months later, I don't know how it happened, but we kind of came to realize that his wife knew all along what was going on and didn't want to leave him for her own reasons. Maybe it was because they didn't want to break the family up and all this other stuff. But it's just, in our mind, we had this feeling of what was right and what was wrong. And what was happening was wrong. And we were complicit, we were part of it. You know, and carrying that guilt and that shame around with us, playing with their kids, seeing them together and not being able to say anything. And then realizing that out of all of that she knew the whole time, but made a decision that she wasn't going to do anything about it because of her own reasons, you know. So like, part of this I can understand. And I mean, so what's your relationship like with your mum now?
It's getting better, but I guess it's been a bit difficult, and I've been trying to talk about it, but I still was having a lot of resentment. So I think she felt blame and judge, and my mom has her own history of having to deal with persecution by old family rules and old rules that do not make sense. And so it's getting better, but there's a lot to repair. Especially on that side of the family, it's very broken. So I just found out from my grandmother now that there's a lot of secrets. There's stories of abuse and sexual abuse and stuff like this that happened to my mother when she was a kid. So I'm taking my time because this is in process of resolution right now, and it's impacting the whole side of that family, which is still very, very affected. And it's getting better, and there's still work to do.
Got it. You know, all power to you, man, because like this stuff is the real work of being able to face difficult situations like that and still have like the inertia, the drive to actually complete it and to dissolve it, to assimilate it, to accept it, you know. Very powerful. And I mean, you know, like I just, you know, talking about you know, we're a mirror for one another, you know. And, you know, the things which I learned growing up were like that, you know, and they shaped who I became. And it's kind of, for me, what I went through was realizing that you know, that I was able to forgive him, you know, because I realized that at the end of the day, people are people, and they're unconscious most of the time to what's going on. And hearing that your mother went through that type of abuse and everything, so she's doing the best she can with what she has. You know, and like once I began to realize that and how we're programmed between 0 and 7, the theta brainwave state, it creates the formative years of who we become. From then onwards, that brainwave, you know, state changes and it becomes more closed. And the RAS, that part of our brain that sifts and sorts and fills out all the images that we see in our life come into our awareness, driven by our unconscious bias, just pulls empirical evidence of whatever's going on for us back into our awareness. So it just repeats itself. And it's this unconscious bias that keeps on going and keeps on going. And quite often, you know, we remain completely, you know, we're unconscious to it for most of our lives unless something happens. And it causes us to ask that question, why? The 3 most powerful letters in the universe, why? You know, and that takes on a whole other journey to complete it. And the same thing happened with my dad as well, because for 18 years he wasn't really there. And coming out of the children's home, well, maybe 15, 20 years ago, I met him again, and lots of situations happened around that. But it was great because I was able to have peeled off so many layers and realized that I've been the person I am today, and I was driven by him. You know, and I was able to tell him on the phone before we met in person, said, you know what, whatever you think, whatever you feel, I'm good. You know what I mean? Like, I'm good. I've let some stuff go. I've let layers go. I've peeled off some of the things that I know have been holding me back. Some limiting beliefs that I've had. And you know what? Not letting him off the hook, but just letting him know that if he's feeling any kind of guilt or any shame or anything like that, he doesn't need to on my behalf, because I've processed and I've let go and I've accepted all of those things which have happened, and I've got around the other side of it to use them and see them as actual strengths, as superpowers for me. Because quite often, you know, like the biggest problems that we have in our lives become our salvation. You know, because they get us in touch with something that's so deep, so visceral, so powerful and penetrating that, you know, the same energy that we use to hold them down, to ignore them, that I used to hold them down, that I used to ignore them, that I used to just keep, it's like energy that you're putting out there to push something down. It's like balloons flying in the air, and there's 20 different balloons. I'm trying to hold each one of them down with 2 sets of hands. You know, I can't cover all of them, but I'm trying to. And then eventually it's like, you know what? I let it all go. And when you let it all go, all this energy that was used to hold it down, to keep it down, to push it down, to be submissive on yourself is now released. And then it's like all this energy comes back to you, of which you can use in whichever way, shape, or form you want to use. And that's what I felt like happened with my dad, you know, and we have an incredible relationship now, you know, like we're in touch all the time, like friends, you know. I call him dad, which is crazy for me, right? It wasn't there for the first 30 years of my life, right? I call him dad, and I'm happy to, right? And he's supported me in ways that I never expected, you know. So it's an amazing journey. So thank you for sharing that. You know, it's and by the way, none of this is planned. This is all you. It's whatever comes in, and I go with that. So I have no idea about this relationship with his mum. Incredible stuff, you know. But it takes true courage to talk about it. True courage to, and you know, it's part of or for me, it's part of the healing process.
Yes.
Because, you know, quite often in our lives, the things that we're holding down, the things that we push to aside, the things we don't talk about, are the things that have dominion and power over us.
Yes.
And the minute we begin to expose those to the light, is the minute we can let them go, accept them, and they start to clear by themselves quite often. And it's allowing. You know, it's allowing these things, guilt, shame, to come to surface and just clear themselves, you know. So it's an incredible thing. Oh.
Yeah. Thank you, and that's really powerful.
Yeah.
Things like because this is actually related to the subject that we are bringing. One thing I'd like to mention, by the way, because by doing the work, I realized that, I mean, my traumas is the result of the trauma of my mother, which is the result of the trauma of my grandparents, which is the result of, actually, when I go in the trauma of my grandparents, there's war traumas. There's the Second World War. There's the Algeria War. And we start to go into collective traumas. What our history as human beings, and where we come from. And those wars, those conflicts were the result of previous collective traumas. And so we are coming here at this stage of resolution. We are currently in a stage of resolution. Where we have to accept this past, just like, which is a process of self-acceptation, because I am also part of this story. I am the result of this story. Not accepting this story for what it is not accepting myself. It's creating dissociation. It's creating inner tension and consciousness. So this is really part of what we are doing now, individually and collectively, what we have to do as a homework. Because ultimately, and maybe I should develop on that later, but to become a sustainable species is about processing this unconsciousness, which is the result of unprocessed traumatic memories, which are just not something to hurt us. It's lesson to learn.
Yeah.
It's what we have not learned yet as an individual, but also as a collective and as a species.
Yeah. And, you know, I was doing a course with you, which you can talk about in a little while, and it's phenomenal because, you know, you're putting words to something before that was unnamed. And whoever's watching this now, it's no coincidence you're watching this, right? And each one is different. Each SpeakuP is different. I have no idea where it's going to go, but I follow the energy through. And with this one, what's coming in, you mentioned about consciousness, right? But what I love about what you're saying is there's this acknowledgement and understanding that I do have a collective memory, a collective past, a collective trauma, which is affecting me. But I actually get the chance to heal it and stop it right now from going any further.
Yeah.
That's power.
That's power, and really it's like exactly stopping this traumatizing process, because the trauma that I process, if I have children, I'm not going to give it to them one way or the other. So like, because I'm going to be mindful, and so they are going to be able to tap on to learn the lessons straight away without going to have to go through a traumatized part. And so we are breaking this cycle, which is becoming increasingly unsustainable, because this cycle, what does it do? I mean, what do traumas and resolved traumas? They keep us in fear of ourselves and each other. They keep us into this rivalry dynamic that, with exponential tech and destructive power, is becoming increasingly self-destructive. So that's really, we're talking about something big. We're talking about the key here, which is self-reconnection, self-healing, self-knowledge, self-acceptance. And this is so powerful, and this is such an important subject, which I think is going to come out in the coming years more and more, because as we are facing the challenge of the 20th century, we are being called to process our shadow, individual and collective, so that we can be conscious enough, intelligent enough to successfully overcome the challenges of the 21st century and become a sustainable species.
Oh.
Yeah, it's pretty deep.
Yeah, it's good.
It's pretty wide at the same time.
It's good.
But it's amazing.
Yeah. And so coming up to now, getting close to where you are now, so you've made a few references in what you're saying about an experience that turned you on to consciousness, right?
Yeah.
Can you tell us about that transformation?
My transformation was very chaotic. To say the least, I'm going to tell the audience that they have to be ready for a chaotic experience, the description of a chaotic experience. At 37 years old, so I was at the peak of my corporate career and really living what I would have considered 5 years back a dream life. I was an expert consultant. I had resigned, but they wanted to keep me, so they had made me a consultant for the group. I was in Bali working 40 hours a month, making good money, and I was at the peak of my career, and I was at the lowest of my mental state. I was going nuts. Like, I didn't know what to do with my free time. I had injured myself, so normally my excess of energy I was raising through sport. So kickboxing, Thai boxing, surf, football. I had injured, I had to stop the sport. And I had to face myself. And I realized I was an emotional mess. That I didn't know what I was doing. That I had no meaning. And so that was what was supposed to be my dream life became a nightmare. And so I went to a meditative retreat in search for responses. And what came out of this was just too much to handle. So I went through a phases where I became really ungrounded and I had to be institutionalized.
Wow.
So it did not only happen once. In 2017 it happened 4 times. And so everybody was really scared. Everybody was like, Benjamin, like, you're sick, you need to take medication. And I was like, no, I have signed up for this. I want to find a response and I'm ready to go through whatever I have to go through. I'm ready to risk my life. I want to go on the other side. So I didn't listen to the psychiatrist and to anyone. I went on my journey, and little by little, every time I was going through this, what I call now a spiritual emergency, a non-grounding spiritual consciousness awakening, I would get a lot of information, but it was just too much, and I would snap. My mental would snap. But each time I was getting new pieces, I was like, damn, I'm getting good stuff. I need to go back there. And ultimately, what came up is that I had to do a lot of inner work to be able to access this information without getting unbalanced. And so I had after a few months, I realized that, damn, I really need to work on myself. That's not cool. I'm endangering myself, and I really need to do the shadow work so that I can tap into this kind of stuff without getting ungrounded. And that took me a year and a half to do. Was very intense, very transformative. But ultimately, that's what I became. And I can now articulate the stuff that I was perceiving in ways that do not freak out people and therefore do not freak me out as well. Because at the beginning, when I was trying to share what I was perceiving, I would freak out people, and then they would freak me out back. And then I would end up institutionalized. Wow. That's really crazy stuff. I didn't expect to talk about all of this, Robert. I
thought I was having an environmental conversation.
Me too.
What happened? But I love it. I love this. This is good.
Thanks.
Mamma mia. And wow, so this conscious uncoupling, right? This, like it's phenomenal. So, wow. So then each time your context was being stretched, right? Yeah. But you kept going back for more.
Yeah.
So you're either crazy or courageous or out of your mind. Literally.
All of that.
Yes.
All of that. But to tell you, the motivation was that, like, I could perceive that if nothing was going to be done, I was going to witness a global catastrophe, knowing that I knew that it was coming and that I couldn't do anything about it.
Got it.
And I was like, it's worth taking the risk. it's worth taking the risk of ending up insane or dead, because obviously I was part of the deal. Like I was basically putting my life on the line, and I had to have this readiness to lose everything to go where I went.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I would not have been into these dark aspects of our reality, especially in the collective unconscious, where all this very dark stuff is.
Yeah.
And ultimately, what's funny is that what I needed is just a proper decoding system, because basically I was perceiving energy, but my first decoding system was, for example, translating everything with good and evil and angels and demons and stuff like this.
Yeah.
So I was going into places and I was sensing demons and stuff. Well, in fact, now I realize that what I'm sensing is just anxiety or sadness or simply unconsciousness, to put the list. Yeah. So it's much more easier when you say, oh, okay, it's just like there's a lot of unconsciousness, rather than there's demons everywhere. And they're here to get us. You know, so I just had to basically adjust my decoding system so that I can perceive all this stuff in ways that remain connected to this world and keeps me rational.
Wow. And all right, so now you mentioned before about doing the work.
Yeah.
You know, and I need to do the work to, you know, to expand my. Well, basically, it's like we're building a skyscraper, and you want to, you know, if you've got very shallow foundation, wind comes and it's done, right? So you want to build, you know, like the roots of a tree. Let's use a tree. It's a nice analogy, right? So you want deep roots, so you can grow high, right? And you can support that growth. So then, when you mentioned about the work, when I say that, which things come to mind? What kind of the work do you mean? The work, so people can get an idea of what you're talking about when you say, I need to do the work.
Okay, so first of all, I want to mention that's just my experience, and so that's not necessarily what I'm going to share. What was the solution for me is not necessarily your solutions. And I'm really inviting everyone to follow their gut feelings and their intuition to see what resonates. For me, what it was, doing the work was, I had to get helped. So that's one thing that's important, is that without help, I would not have been able to do it. And I was helped by very specific people. So I worked a lot with what I consider to be the best clairvoyant in France.
Wow.
Really top notch. I was very lucky to find them. It's part of my journey. And basically their specialty is they are very good at decoding what's in the unconscious that we cannot check. And not only they decode it and they will help us to get aware of it mentally, but they can enter directly in contact with our unconscious structure and give us the key so that we can adjust.
All right.
So we're talking about working on limiting our destructive beliefs that are disconnected from reality.
All right. Can I just keep that thought? Just want to clarify something here. So there's this thing, and I call it the clock. Right? I guess we all call it a clock, right? So imagine you've got a clock, right? Big circle, and you've got 1 to 12, okay? So the way I like to see the stuff is like saying, you know, between numbers 1 to 2, right? This is what I know that I know. I know my name. I know my hands are connected to my wrists. I know where I live. I know how to get home. I know how to use Google, right? I know who my friends are. I know who my dad is. I know who my mum is, right? So these are things that I know. So that's 1 to say 2, for sake of argument. Now let's go from 2 to say 4, or 2 to 5, probably more like 4. These are the things that I know that I don't know. So, for example, how does a rocket leave the atmosphere and go somewhere? I know I don't know that. You know, how does nuclear fission works? I know it's about splitting an atom and there's energy that's produced, but I don't really know how it works. So I know that I don't know that. Okay, but then there's this whole other area which will say is represented by number 4 all the way to 12. So it's a lot, right? And this is the stuff that I don't know that I don't know. Right? So the stuff is that I don't know that I don't know. And I believe what Benjamin is saying is that the clairvoyant was deepening into that area of stuff that you don't even know that you don't even know. It's way back there in the subconscious. Is that fair? Okay.
Concerning me, so that's the thing, that because technically, the way I see it is that we are all infinitely ignorant, because this is an infinite reality, right? And we can only perceive from a limited perspective.
Yeah.
So we are infinitely ignorant, but the thing is to not be ignorant about ourselves. So what this clairvoyant were doing is really going to tell me what unconscious belief I was running on. And I was like, what? I'm running on that? You know, like, damn. You know, and it was really amazing because it was like there was religious belief, though I'm not religious. But because they were unconsciously transmitted from generation to generation. And so I had so much unconscious stuff I was not aware of. I still have, by the way, except I'm not aware that I have so much. And so I'm being mindful about my programs, about how I react, because that's how I bring it to consciousness. It's like, how do I react to that situation? What emotion does it trigger? And so what kind of programs can be behind that? So I'm becoming used to do the shadow work by myself. But when they popped out, I couldn't believe my ears when they were telling me what was coming out. I was like, but it was true. It was true. And the resolution of their work always came a few weeks after or a few months after through experiences. So it's not only just the theory, right? Like it's not enough because we gotta go in the real world and experience, and then suddenly like the realization come, and then we know the change. Like everything changed when that resolution comes, and it's like, wow, I become a new me, you know, like and now I become used to it because it's like constantly upgrading my programs and stuff as becoming part of my reality. And it's amazing how everything that I experience is just an invitation for, transcending these chains, these wounds from the past that have not yet been transcended yet.
Wow.
So it's beautiful. I think like we said, from my perspective, the whole universe is conspiring to wake us up and to make us heal the wounds from the past. Everything is happening in our reality today. It's an invitation to introspect.
I love that analogy, and when I'm coaching clients or talking to people, I love to see that, as challenges as opportunities, to go deeper, to get to your 2.0 or your 3.0 or your 4.0. And don't get me wrong, there's sometimes I go in there kicking and screaming. I don't want to go there, I don't want to see this. What is coming up? But ultimately, with time, as you mentioned, that 2 or 3 weeks, or a couple of months, it's like, I know what that was now. There's this hindsight for knowledge. Wow. So then with you, so when I say the word energy, right? What comes up in your mind when I say describe what energy is for you?
Right. To me, I consider the universe being made of energy and consciousness. So it's just the reality that we are. That what we perceive as the material world, what it is made of. So and so it's also what we are made of. So it's primary, it's who we are in a way, plus consciousness. So it's fundamental.
Yeah. And then for you, so is your feeling that we have that individual consciousness, and then we have consciousness of which is collective, or do you believe it's all part of the same thing, or?
Well, we have both at the same time. It's not one or the other. It's both. So I'm an individual consciousness within a collective consciousness, within a universal consciousness. It's like we have one thing in another and another. So the question is not if it's one or the other. It's both. It's like it's not about having arguments whether we are one or whether we are separated. We are both. This is a multidimensional reality. So it's one does not override the other. They are part. I'm part of the collective consciousness as an individual consciousness.
Got it. And then for you, it's like if I say to you, do you believe that your life is predestined, or do you believe that you have free will or something else?
Okay, great. Again, it's the same response. It's both. I mean, in a way that many different scenarios are predestined, and probably an infinite amount of them, and I'm choosing at every single moment which one I am going to head on to. I think everything is there in the quantum field. Just like us having this conversation is taking another path that is different from the one we would have if we didn't have that conversation. Both were there. We just choose that one.
Wow. So then we have a conscious choice to make out of a quantum, which is multiple quantum opportunities, possibilities for us to step into, and where our consciousness comes in is that we get to choose which one.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's really important to remember we have the choice, and that whether I pick left or right, or just if I leave 5 seconds earlier or 5 seconds later, I already choose a different path. And we make those choices constantly. And they determine our fate individually, but also collectively. Because we do individual choices that are part of collective choices. So this is really an interesting game we are playing.
Wow. And then which place, if any, was something like what most people here would call karma?
I think karma is different. There's different ways to describe karma. For me, it's lessons waiting to be learned. It's not about being punished because we've done something bad, because we've been evil. It's just that we haven't yet learned some certain lessons. And so this ignorance creates situations in our reality that tends to be painful. That's karma. That's the way at least I see it.
Got it. Wow. And so now coming a little bit more forward. So when I look at you, I think of New World Together.
Yeah.
Right? And the people that know you looking at you now will also think about that. So what was New World Together, and how did it come about, and what was it for? What is it for?
Okay, so I think it's great to ask what it was, because I started with one plan and I'm currently changing. So first of all, at first it was about raising awareness about the problem of global unsustainability and uniting people to find a solution. That was my first idea, and obviously it was very, very tough. So we organized more than 40 events in Bali, but it was very hard to get people to be interested in this problem, this situation. So it was a struggle, and now I'm shifting toward empowering people to become part of the solution to achieve global sustainability. So I'm making it much more personal. And so right now what I'm working on is developing online programs that will be about helping people to get clarity, to be empowered, and to have a positive vision for the future, so that they can be actors of significant change, rather than just, this is the problem and you should work on it. And when you get the problem, you're like, that's too much. I cannot, I think many people from my experience are actually overwhelmed, very anxious, very depressed when they start thinking about these global situations, and though it cannot, just raising awareness is not enough, because it's smashing people down with a reality that they are not ready to handle. So it's really about empowerment with the new vision of New World Together. And so ultimately our aim, and I'm just restarting the project with this new project, is to unite change makers, conscious leaders, around a common understanding of what is happening, a common vision for the future, and to create a network of empowered change makers, basically. Because once we make sense of what is happening, because it sounds very complicated when we talk about global unsustainability or global sustainability, really, once we start making sense of the situation, it is much more easy than we think. But it takes a bit of a process to get to that ability to sense making.
Got it. And is there anything else you're working on at the moment?
Student programs and research publications. So that we notably research publications on the global unsustainability and its root cause, notably on the collective unconscious, and the type of systems that could be sustainable, and how we can be part of the solution as individuals. Student programs, because one of the ideas is to empower students. I think the youth have a big part to play, and I think it'd be really cool for them to be more conscious than their parents, and to be able to explain to their parents stuff that they never thought of. So all of that is in the pipe. We also have some research going on about how traditional wisdom, such as traditional Balinese wisdom or Confucianism, or probably other stuff that will come on the pipe, have already what we need in order to achieve global sustainability. So how actually we already have the responses, we've just disregard some of the values that we know, because they didn't really make sense in the current system in which we are. So all of that is happening at the moment.
Got it. And when you say global unsustainability. So now, you asked me this question, I gave you a response, but many people don't know what that is or what you mean by it. So if you could just take a little bit, as long as you need to define what that looks like, what that is.
Sure. So first of all, I would like to say that global unsustainability as human beings is our species behaving in ways that are not sustainable on the surface of the globe. The environmental aspect is one aspect to it. There's the socio-economical, geopolitical, cultural aspect behind it. And all of these are part of an interdependent, interconnected situation where the common denominator is us. All right. So we have a problem of global unsustainability because we collectively behave in ways that are unsustainable. One of the main factors of that is that we are driven by competition for growth and rivalry. And multiplying that with increased ability to extract resources and to destroy ourselves, it's becoming increasingly unsustainable. Logically, we cannot behave like cancer cells on a limited space, because we do what cancer do. They kill their host and they kill themselves. Yeah. So just to say, it's really about that. So when we talk about global unsustainability, the other side of the coin is global sustainability. So the aim is not to get everyone depressed because it's going to be the end of the world. Absolutely not. It's to understand what is happening so that we can become part of the solution. And in order to achieve global sustainability, which is a vital need for our species. Because many people say we've got to save the planet, but I mean it's a little bit funny because the planet ultimately is likely to be fine. But if we destroy the ecosystem that we need for our survival, thus we are screwed.
We won't be.
We won't be fine. Yeah. So it's nice to want to be a hero and save the planet, but really this is really back to basics and survival. And I think survival is important.
What I love about you, one of the things that I love about you is that you made that shift, because when I first met you, Tomorrow Gallery here in Bali, what I saw was a guy on his mission, on his path, but you were coming out of that space of, we're done. Do you know what I mean? Like before I go into this, we're talking here now, so it wasn't the thing that I took away with me, it's just what I noticed at the time, and it's only an opinion, right? But yeah, so you're coming more from the problem. And then what I found is that you're focusing on the problem. This is the problem, 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 and this is the problem. And then what I noticed about you over a series of months was a shift to the acknowledging this is the problem, but this is what we can do.
Yeah.
As an individual, as well as the species and all this. And that's what I actually loved, because in a way you put the power back in the hands of us, right? But it starts with you, the man or woman in the mirror. Yeah. About how you live your life, the lifestyle you have, just the little ways that just through you doing those small little actions, cumulatively can lead to a big outcome, which cumulatively can lead to a more positive outcome for us as a race. So that's what I noticed for me. Again, it's just an opinion. But is there anything you can relate to in that?
Yeah, I had a realization basically, and you're really right to say that, is that I was not really trying to just put the problems, but my first idea was that people need to understand the problem first before they can even think about being part of the solution. Yeah. But by doing that, I was giving stuff like I was bringing stuff that people could not digest, and so they could not relate or feel empowered. And it's COVID-19. Thanks, really, on my side, it's been kind of a blessing because it stopped our activities. I was like, damn. What do we do? So I had to ask myself serious questions, and I was going through some other processes. And ultimately I came to the realization that what I was doing was actually very toxic for me and for others. Because I was bombarding people with the world problems without giving them the tools to be able to digest them, to do something constructive with it. So I think I sent some people probably to depression, stuff like this. I realized that, and I guess some people had a really hard time after coming to one of my presentations. Because it was pretty. I didn't spare people, and so I came up to realize that it was about empowering people, and that to empower people, they need to go through a process. It's just not like dumping on them what's happening in the world, and especially that perspective, which is because of course we're going to talk about the problem, so just the problem. So I came up to realize. Also that it wasn't empowering for others and wasn't empowering for me. So I shifted. And now that's what you're here. It's the result of that shift. And what the work that's going to come out in the coming weeks and months is also the result of that shift. And we see what results it gives, but it sounds very exciting.
Cool. And is there anyone that you look up to, or anyone that you can say, you know what, that person, those people, that company is on a mission and I love the direction that they're taking?
There's many people on the international side, and I think, for example, the the project that's coming out of Adrian Reed. Which I found, and I mean, feel free to put the link, whatever. But that sounds amazing. There's many activities that are coming, and I'm now in process also of connecting. So I'm personally, like, people that I look up to will be, for me, that really impress me. There are more people that I find online, like, for example, Charles Eisenstein, or Daniel Schmarzenberger, or Chris Hedges, or Jordan Peterson to some extent. I don't like everything that he's doing, but some stuff that's really, really, really kick-ass. All these thinkers who are shifting the paradigm because they are bringing new perspective that completely change our perspective of ourselves and the world, and therefore our behavior. That's something that I really love, and I'm really, really happy to be taking part of. And plus all these other initiatives. I mean, there's countless of people who are now moving toward permaculture, who are already doing their part, quitting their career, sometimes very successful career, to be part of the solution. Because people are having this realization that we just can't continue to deny what is happening and to keep the same trajectory. So, yeah, that really gives me hope. Especially that I see the potential for synergies and collaboration in the very near future. Because we can't do that by ourselves. I'm just one drop in the ocean doing my part. But like, when all the drops that are doing their part can collaborate, then that makes a wave, and the wave can get bigger, and it can have a huge impact.
And all power to you. Like I said, the first time I met you, I felt that energy. Underneath everything, I could feel there's something very good, very powerful, very open, aware, and I love people who are committed to stuff, and I could see that you were committed, and that kind of took me back. That's one reason I kept in touch, actually. So but what can we do? So someone said to you, look, I sat there, I listened to you. I get to realize the rumblings of something within me that might be seeds of discontent, that might be seeds of, I need to make some changes, right? Or it might be seeds of, like, there's things that I'm really not aware of. I know that I'm not aware of them, but I feel that something is going on. Like, what steps or step can someone take who's just beginning to become conscious?
Okay, great. So that's a very good question. There's many of them, but I'm going to try to give some of them that I think are very important. One very important one is first to accept our emotions. We have something in our society that I find is very problematic. Is what I would call toxic positivity, which, like, everything must feel good, everything must be positive, everything must be great. Well, that's nice, but that's not how we're going to process our shadow. That's not how we're going to deal with the shit we have inside of us. But that's just like escaping it. So one thing is to be at ease with discomfort. And being at ease with discomfort allows us to being at ease with part of reality that are very difficult to accept. But just to say that reality is reality. Like, the alternative to accepting reality is being disconnected from reality, which is not something that I would recommend. So it's not all nice, and it doesn't mean that it's all wrong either. It's like this part of our reality that are difficult for us to stand, that raise emotions. Those emotions are here for a reason. They are an invitation for change. If we feel fear, it's because somehow either we've not dealt with past traumas that bring up this fear, or it's because there's a real danger. In both cases, it needs our attention. An alternative to not rejecting these negative feelings is developing patterns of escapism. And here we can go in the realm of addictions, and not only to drugs and alcohol, but also to work, to money, to sex, to sport, to things that can be considered very healthy in our society. So that's one thing. The second thing is having a culture of truth, a love of truth. And I'm not saying truth as an absolute stuff, but truth as about being who I am, speaking from a space of authenticity, even when it includes vulnerability, even when it's about showing parts of myself that I don't like. Having the ability to question our beliefs, not being attached to our beliefs, realizing that our beliefs are just programs, right? They're tools that we've created, and recognizing that some of these programs might be obsolete. And even though we are in a comfort zone because we've identified with them, they may not serve us anymore. So having the opportunity to question ourselves deeply, is what I perceive true? Is what I believe true? Being curious and hungry for information, and stepping out of the easy responses. And easy responses are generally those that point at an enemy outside of us. Or, we are the good guys and those are the bad guys. And so the solution is to fight the bad guys and to put them in jail, or this is not going to help us to deal with our to process our shame. It's to understand that we are part of this world, and that very often the enemy that we see outside of us is a projection of the enemy that we have inside of us. Or to not call it an enemy, the unconsciousness that we have inside of us. It's not necessarily an enemy, it's just a teacher. And the last advice is being open to change. Being very open to change, no matter when it comes, and even when it doesn't play in our interest. Seeing that in every challenge there's an opportunity. You mentioned that, and that's really important. That, for example, allowed me to turn the COVID-19 curse into a real blessing. But I had to reprogram myself and say, no, when I step out of, this is not wrong, I cannot do what I want, to what is it that I can do that I couldn't do before, thanks to this situation. And I would say that's key elements that I could just come out with right now.
Got it.
Might be obsolete what I'm saying in the next month, but
right
now it sounds pretty okay.
I don't think so. Right. So as you might know, and the guys watching, some of you know already. So I've developed this. I wouldn't call it a course. What would I call it? Initiative. Anyway, it's called Turn Your Story into a Book, and what it's about is this. So SpeakuP Monday is about having people from different walks of life talk about them and themselves, and being able to not necessarily pull out, but being able to showcase defining moments, challenges, struggles, things that the people have overcome or still going through, in a way that you put it on a plate for someone to see and say, that's me, or I identify with that, or I've been through something like that and I can see a way through, or it's like, wow, I'm not alone, right? This is part of the reason why we do this. And so Turn Your Story into a Book is about that, but in the form of a book. Because what I love about books, which I have only really come to realize recently, is that something so simple, which is when I write a book or turn my story into a book, it's written exactly how I want it to be written. It can't be changed, manipulated, propagandized. Anyway, it is exactly what it is. And when I have it in my hand and I'm reading it, I'm getting direct download from the person in energy and time and all the rest of that, of the person that wrote it. Really powerful. But it's a really powerful tool to empower a lot of people, right? So this is a plug. I highly suggest we have a talk, because again, my feeling is that we all have a story, right? Some people have more stories to put into the story, but no matter what walk of life we're in, because people inspire people. That's my belief. People inspire people. People inspire people. People inspire people. So putting that in a book, in a podcast, in a show like this, people that inspire people. So I would really, honestly, whether it's me or someone else, but I really suggest you do something like that, because there's a whole wealth of things within you that I believe would help, because this is all about being in service, right? And there's so much in there. And I did the course that you did, that 21 day, it's brilliant. Like what you did and the way that you did it. I'm not sure if you're looking to do it again or whatever, but it's incredible. So there's insights in there for us all to learn, and it's a really powerful way to step forward. So look, it's something which, a direct plug. Turn Your Story into a Book. Look at it on Facebook. There's a group called Turn Your Story into a Book. Go and check it out if that resonates with you. Okay, lots of 21 videos or more bonus material. Really gives you, it's free as well, gives you an idea of how to do that, right? Question comes up. what is a really great experience you remember about your mum? Really great experience.
Wow, that's a really good question. There's many that comes to my mind, but I remember her being, despite the mistake that she's made, just like being a human being, being very loving and caring, to a point of being overprotective and really being there when I was going down, protecting me and taking me. Like, I remember one day I was being very depressed and was feeling very disconnected, and she's just like, okay, we're gonna go snowboarding. And she just took me snowboarding, and like I would spend the whole day snowboarding, and she got me out of my depressive state. And I'm really glad you asked that, because that's really amazing. Is that I also have my realization with these questions. The question is so important. Like, I realize I have a tendency still, despite all my experience, to only look at the negative aspect and to forget what she has done. And that's something that we're so often victim. I mean, that's the victim mentality, actually. Yeah? Is like thinking that, no, not looking at the bright side of things. And my mom did so much sacrifice for me. And I tend to forget that because I'm busy dealing with the pain of that side of the family. And so thanks for asking. That's really powerful. But I guess that's something that I need to bring up, the conversation I'm going to have with my mom. So thanks for that clarification, though.
Man.
And I am a sales, so that I'm in process of writing a book in French for now, but I'll definitely connect to the group.
Man,
makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, like it's work with some incredible people, and I get inspired by it. I get inspired by looking at someone who's faced X and Y challenge and has found a way to overcome it, or didn't overcome it, was just hanging on for sheer survival, but managed to get through it and saw something in there. Dealing with people who had no right in their mind to be doing the things that they did, but yet found a way to forgive themselves, and found a way to allow themselves to heal, and that healing process, to have empathy, empathy is courage, courage is empathy, really, and being able to truly connect with that, whether it's your mother, your father, your friends, your, loved one, truly powerful experiences,
It's very powerful, and really one thing to me that led me to have much more empathy and to develop it constantly is to recognize that destructive behaviors, from my perspective today, are always coming from a space of trauma. There's a book that's about to come out in the US from a member of the family of Trump. Hopefully it's going to come out, because there is some objections that are being made for the book not to come out. But basically, she's a psychologist, and she's coming out explaining the trauma that have been inflicted on Donald Trump, how traumatized is the Trump family, and how this trauma has created what she called the most dangerous man in the world. So all of this is coming out, and I think when we start to demonize people who are doing stuff that we consider unethical or destructive, criminal, we judge something that we don't understand, because we haven't been in their shoes, we haven't had the challenge, the pain that they have faced, that led them to become this person that we consider destructive. And so that reaction of demonizing the other is by itself destructive. It goes back to our own consciousness. So one thing I realized doesn't mean that I have to accept everything, but it's that I always have to recognize that people who are doing stuff that's really, really considered fucked up are coming from a space of trauma that perpetuates a state of unconsciousness that leads to destructive behaviors. And that's a whole shift, because there's no more a need to punish, to judge and punish. There's a need to understand and heal. That's a very, very different approach. A complete paradigm shift. And it starts within the mind, within the heart, by having that realization.
Yeah. And so we're coming close. So if you have questions, by the way, my mind is just, But if you have questions, feel free to put them in the comments, and we'll get onto that in a second. If you don't have questions, that's okay. But if you do, feel free to ask. Something came up for me just from what you were just saying. So you spoke about the heart, right? So what is the heart to you, and what role does it play in this whole game of consciousness?
Okay, so we are not going to talk about biology. To me, the heart is what connects the bottom and the top, ultimately. It's what connects the mental and the guts. And so it's a key element, and it's where consciousness comes from. Ooh. So, in a way to put it, the mental connects us to our ability to perceive, make sense of our reality, access the truth, and the guts connect us to our ability to have feelings. And the aim, of course, is to have a pleasurable experience, not to feel fear or anger or shame, but to feel pleasure, happiness, fulfillment. And so the heart is what connects these two parts, and it's the center of consciousness for me. Mm. And so traumas, by the way, are a disconnection from the heart as well. That's why we have a lot of psychopathic behaviors, is because we are disconnected from our heart, and so of our ability to feel compassion, empathy for ourselves and others.
Oh. And then how do we reconnect to the heart if we are separate from it, and trauma is caused by a disconnection to the heart? How do we, and those people watching, how is there any advice you can give them to reconnect?
So honestly, live, experience, feel fully, and remember, I would say my advice is ultimately what we are processing is limiting our destructive beliefs, conscious or unconscious, primitive and irrational fears, and unresolved traumatic memories. And they are either inherited from our parents or from our past experiences. And so that's the job we're doing. And it's a lot of introspection and self-acceptance, and allowing ourselves to live, allowing ourselves to get out of our comfort zone, to go on that age where I'm going to be challenged, where I'm going to have these feelings coming out. I'm going to be aware of my limiting belief, because I'm going in that space where it's safe, but I'm still feeling afraid. Mm. And doing it smoothly. I mean, doing it in a way that is constructive for us. I said, don't do like I did, going through insanity and stuff, because that's dangerous. And I really put myself on the line, and I could have died. I could have ended up in a psychiatric hospital for good. So you don't have to do that, but just go little by little on the edge and feel where you have to feel, and be connected to yourself and to others, as authentic as you can be. Children, they know how to do that. You know, express your emotions, don't repress them. Be who you are, fully.
Thank you, brother. Yeah. And last question from me. Courage. So has courage got a part to play in this?
Courage is the ability to overcome our fears. And that's something that still must be done with discernment, because it doesn't mean like putting ourselves in a situation where, you know, we really put our chance of survival at stake. It's not the absence of fear, it's the ability to accept our fear and to overcome them, using other resources such as discernment, such as grit, such as motivation. And courage is best used for the greater good.
Got it. One thing that's been coming up for me continually recently, because I've probably been focused on it, is, you know, this, you know, people talk about confidence and courage, you know, so confidence being, you know, perhaps being the place where I do this activity a lot, I become good at it, I become confident at doing it, I have confidence. But then you take me into an activity which I've never done, I haven't got that repetitive behavior, so I haven't got the confidence in it, you know. Then in that situation, where does confidence sit? And then what I've been coming to look at is this idea of courage being hardwired within each of us, you know. And, you know, a picture that we can all probably relate to in some way, shape or form, even if we may not be a woman and a mother is that love that a mother has for her child, like run in front of the bus. Again, we spoke about before about discernment, right? So let's put that aside for a second. Run in front of the bus, not so smart. But anyway, it's this ability to muster this decision that in that moment, all that matters is moving your child away from danger. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So it's courage being hardwired within you. So where it's been leading to for me, and what I've become very aware of is that courage is something that we all have within us, and it's literally 1 or 2 seconds of courage is all we need, because the courage comes in making a decision and taking that action, and that's a thought. A decision in your mind is a tenth of a second, 100 seconds to make that choice, to combat that fear, to work and to go for it in spite of that fear, to pick up that phone and call your mum and say, you know what, whatever you've done, what I feel that you've done, I love you and I always will. And I know that you've sacrificed so much for me, and there's things for me to let go of, but you know what, I just want to let you know that I love you and I always will. It's like your body knows what to do, but sometimes it's just that 1 or 2 seconds of courage that you need just to activate what you know you need to do. So for those of you watching, if that resonates, great. If it doesn't, great. But it's just something which is coming up, about courage versus confidence. And you don't need to do something because you're not confident about it. It's just mustering the courage to try.
Yeah. And don't be afraid to fail. It's one example I give now very often. It's like, if children were afraid to fail, they will never learn how to walk. Because in order to walk, you've got to fall down.
Mm.
So it's like, failing is part of the process of learning, getting out of our comfort zone, doing something that we've never done before.
Mm.
And so not being confident is fine. It's a great space to grow. Mm. And this is also what life is about.
Mm. Thank you, man. Well, brother, it's been a pleasure, man. We'll check for questions in a second, but I just want to say and acknowledge you for being who you are. And to me, you embody what SpeakuP Monday is all about. It's being open, it's being vulnerable if necessary, but it's telling the story as you see it, telling your life as you see it, but in such a way that you're a person watching this, I know, is already thinking and is taking things away from them to try maybe the next step. One thing they can do in this area, if it resonates with them, regardless if fear is present or not, to take that step, and create that positive dent in the universe. And as you said earlier on, all these positive dents altogether creates a wave, and a wave is something which can affect the whole world in a positive way, not just through being positive, but through being authentic and through being congruent with who you are, but putting it out there with courage. So, brother, man.
Thank you, Robert, and thank you for being part of this. I mean, honestly, you're taking part of this. You might not realize, but you have an influence on me as well. You're also part of who I am since the first day I met you. So, this is a teamwork. We're all part of this.
Mm.
So thank you, and really thank you for doing this and making this happen. This is really powerful.
Oh man, I want to give you a hug off camera.
The micro is gonna.
All right, let's check see if there's any questions. Maybe Itchy can help us out. I think I need to get back to my page. Are there any questions? Great, awesome, man. It's been amazing, man.
But then you broke out stuff I didn't even expect. I'm like, damn,
oh wow.
Like when you talk about the good memories about my mother, I'm like, dude, I didn't think about it. I didn't think about the traumatic memories. Oh man, it's like it's right there in front of me.
Yeah.
Anyway,
there's a little thing which I do, and Rebecca Tapp, if you're watching this, we had a chat about this a long time ago. Rebecca Tapp, Bex. There's a thing about, so each time when I'm either having a coaching session with somebody or speak up or something which I'm doing which impacts people, definitely. I go out maybe onto the grass, find some, if I'm in nature, even better, but then 3 deep breaths into the, let it go, right? 3 deep breaths, and I just close my eyes and tap into whatever's happening around me. And then white light comes down, right? I imagine white light coming down. And it's not a religious thing, right? And what it is, what I'm saying, what I'm stating, what my intention is that please God, please help me to be of best value to Benjamin, to Itchy, to whoever's watching this. It can be to anything, right? And, excuse me, the action of that, what it allows me to do is to step out of my body, and whatever happens is it's like a vessel of consciousness to come through and ask whatever needs to be asked in this case, or if I'm on a coaching call, to bring up whatever it needs to be brought up, you know. And I love that process. I'm passing on to you because if that resonates with you, give it a try, right? It's a way to, you know, like today, you know, something crazy happened to me, which I won't go into now, but it's clearing that. And that process, no matter where I am, whether I've had a heated discussion with my significant partner or whatever's going on, that process brings me right back into my body and right back into the present moment. And it's a really powerful thing to do, because then you have access to all of creativity, all of consciousness to come through you. And in this particular situation, to ask the question, like, I didn't know I was going to ask about your mum. I had no idea about any of this, but now I'm so comfortable with the process that
was amazing.
That's what comes in, and I trust it,
Yeah.
and I let it come through. And I don't take any notes. I don't do any research. It's just what comes, you know. And yes, I love that process. Thank you for trusting us to be part of that process, whether you're watching this live or on replay. And in a minute, Benjamin, I'm going to ask you to leave some parting words. But before we do that, so have a think about what they might be. So next week, we have Stephanie Willard coming up, who's going to be in Australia. So we're going to be doing this still as a Q&A, but not next to each other. They're on your screen, or I think there'll be a screen like coming down the middle, and it'll be me and her, or her and me. So that's going to be really interesting. And she's going to talk about, she's an amazing coach. And it's along this line of consciousness, actually. So we've opened a door tonight, and we'll continue going through that door next week. So feel free to tune in. And remember, join the group, share this with other people. Sharing is very important. Sharing is not only caring, but sharing is important because with this, I've kept it grassroots. And now with Tropical Nomad, Itchy and the team here at Tropical Nomad, we're going to build this platform out. We're going to stream it on YouTube. We're going to do other things with it, right? Because it's number 62, next 63. Right? We've done a lot of this, and it's time to step it up, you know, to play a bigger game, so to speak. So that's what we're going to be doing, right? And but again, if you feel a pull from the universe with this, and you think, you know what, I'd love to SpeakuP Monday, or you know someone who would, or volunteer them, right? Feel free to get in touch with me, Robert Ian Bonnick, or through SpeakuP Monday page, or, you know, a lot of you would know me. A lot of you know how to get to me. Just get to me one of those ways. Get to me, and just send me someone's name. If you don't know if they'll be into it or not, even if you don't know that, like, you're kind of volunteering them, that's okay. I've never got a no somehow. So even when people I'm calling, and it always works out. So please feel free to do that. I'd love you to do that. And remember, at 7 p.m. we start till whatever time we go to. So look, just keep that in mind, please, okay? Now, I'm going to hand over to my guest, Benjamin.casteillo, for any parting words or to leave with you. And then after, we're going to be wrapping up. I just want to thank you again so much for being with us. Thank you for sharing this with the people that you know, feel that needs to hear this. And love you very much. Thanks very much. Benjamin.
So, just a short words. There's no need for a long story, but we say, no matter where you are, no matter how you feel, what you think, just we are all in this together. And what we share in common is more important than what divides us. It's really something that it's important. And no matter who you are and what you think about me or whatever, like there's at least 3 things that we share in common. And to me, that's a priority. First one is our humanity. The second is our planet, and the third is our universe. So it doesn't matter what beliefs you're running on, and let's put that as a core to build up the rest and to get to know each other and to understand each other. Because out of this mutual understanding, which is also our self-knowledge, will come what we're looking for: sustainability, world peace, abundance, and everything that we need to live happy, fulfilled life together. Ciao.
Thank you, guys. Thanks, Brother Ben. Thanks, Itchy, Tropical Nomad. You guys are awesome. And Sister Bella, thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
Blessings. Thank you.
And Mom, I love you. She needs to hear that.
Yes.